I am going to let everyone know that it is indeed a pleasure. It's always such a wonderful experience when we have our friends from the library joining us in our sessions. And this is what I'm looking forward to, because I have worked with faculty who truly enjoy both of these databases. So I'm looking forward to learning more about them. So it is my pleasure today to introduce you to Kristy Padron, who is a scholarly communications librarian, and Ken Frankel, who is head of the instruction and engagement services. Both of them have been a part of our Yale and COCE family for quite a while. So we're delighted to have you both back. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. COCE.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I will be speaking first about the Web of Science, and my colleague Kristy will talk about the Journal Citation Reports after me. The Journal Citation Reports is something that our library has added recently, and we're very excited because I've worked at the library about 30 years, and over the years, we've always had faculty members calling us asking if we have the Journal Citation Reports, and now finally we do. But first I'm going to talk about the Web of Science. Now, the first thing I want to say about the Web of Science is that it's not just for science. It's not just a science database, because the Web of Science includes not only the Science Citation Index, but also the Social Sciences Citation Index and the Arts and Humanities Citation Index as well. So it is, although it's called the Web of Science, it does cover a wide variety of disciplines. Our subscription to the Web of Science also includes something called the Emerging Sources Citation Index, which was started recently. And I'll explain a little bit more about that later on in the presentation and what the significance of that is. But these components can all be searched together or separately or in any combination. The Web of Science suite also includes, besides the Web of Science core collection, also has access to several foreign language databases, including the Korean Journal database, the Russian Science Citation database, and Cielo, which is a Latin American database of academic journals. So those three are all in their respective languages. So the Russian Science Citation database, for example, a lot of the content is in the Cyrillic alphabet, and the KCI has a lot of content in the Korean alphabet. Some of them have English abstracts. You can also search Medline through the Web of Science platform, which would allow you to use some of the unique features of the Web of Science that I'll be talking about during this session. So I'm going to be going through a few slides to talk about the features of the Web of Science, and then I'll go into a live demo and actually show you how it works. So you can, as in many databases, create a profile or register to create an account in the Web of Science. And this would allow you to save your search history and to create alerts. So if there's a particular area that you'd like to create a search on, you can then ask to have alerts, and then you would have any new content that's added to the database sent to you either daily, weekly, or monthly. So you can really use that for current awareness in your field. You can save your custom search settings. You can create marked lists of results and save those in the Web of Science also. Also, you can save records to EndNote Online through the Web of Science. And the Web of Science will actually provide access to EndNote, but it is not the full version of EndNote. The company that now provides the Web of Science is called Clarivate. And it's a fairly new company that I believe started in 2016 or 2017. Before that, the Web of Science for many years was part of what's called the Institute of Scientific Information, which was based out of Philadelphia and existed as kind of a standalone company for many decades, when it was then taken over by Thomson Reuters sometime in the past 15 or 20 years. And then part of Thomson Reuters was sold to a private equity firm called Clarivate, a new company. And oftentimes when something's taken over by an equity firm, it could spell the doom of that product. However, in this case, they are actively developing the Web of Science. They just went over to a new platform, and they've been introducing lots of new features. Other things that Clarivate owns, besides the Web of Science and the Journal Citation Reports and EndNote, they also own a database called Derwent, which is used for searching patents, and also something called Cortellis, which is sort of a competitive intelligence database used by the pharmaceutical industry. So that's just a little background about Clarivate. In the Web of Science, there are three major search options. The basic search is the document search, and features the basic kind of searching that you would use in most databases. Of course, you can use Boolean operators to combine terms, proximity operators to search for two terms near each other. You can specify how many within how many words, and things like truncation and wildcards. There is an author search option in the Web of Science also, and this seems to be geared to kind of creating a Web of Science researcher ID. And this is a sort of thing that's also being done by ORCID. So if you have an ORCID ID, you can use that. Or if you know someone's, you can use that to search for an author. Or if you're going to create an author ID within the Web of Science, you can create a profile and then claim your publications under your profile. Now, the really unique thing about the Web of Science is the cited reference search. And so with the cited reference search, you can search for any particular publication or author and see subsequent publications that have cited it. And you notice I put in parentheses in reputable journals. So of course, this can be useful for faculty members going up for promotion and or tenure, to see or to document who cited your research. And also a more recent development, Google Scholar also allows you to do something like this. However, the advantage of using the Web of Science is that they have a very strict quality control system for journals. And at the beginning, I had mentioned that there was something called the Emerging Sources Citation Index. So when a new journal comes into being, it doesn't go right into either the science, social science, or arts and humanities citation index. It undergoes kind of a probationary period where it goes into this Emerging Sources Index. And then after a certain number of years of meeting their criteria, it'll then go into one of those indexes. And I don't think this is the case in something like Google Scholar, that they have a staff devoted to the quality control of these journals that are included within Google. The individual records for each article do include access to the full text. Sometimes there'll be a link directly to the publisher. There will often be the Find It at FAU button that'll look through the library's holdings to see if it's available through any of our resources. So that is there. Of course, the information about the article itself, the bibliographic information, and citation are there, and abstract, excuse me. The references that were used, the cited references from that article are included, as well as those, a link to those who have cited it subsequently. So we are able to see both the resources that this article, that any particular article was built upon, and then also those authors who have cited this article after it was published. So we can do what is called both backward and forward reference searching. There is now also a usage count, which includes click-throughs to the full text or exports of that article to bibliographic citation. And also now that we have access to the JCR, there is sometimes information about the journal which is sourced from the JCR. So that's a little bit about the individual article records. And then also when we do a search on a topic in the Web of Science, we can then analyze the results in many different ways. So we can see for a particular topic who the leading authors are, who the institutions that are doing the most research on a particular topic, which journals, which publications are publishing the most articles about that subject, as well as the publishers of the journals, and then also the funding agencies that are funding the most research in a particular area. So this can be used for things like determining potential collaborators, deciding on a journal to submit manuscripts to. And there's additional information about this in JCR that Kristy will be talking about, and also selecting grant funders to submit proposals to, and also students who are seeking to choose a graduate program that's doing a lot of research on a particular topic. This could be another way of doing this and getting actual data about you know, the institutions that are doing the most research in a particular area. The Web of Science. To get to it from the library's website, I can just click on databases and type in Web of Science, or I can go to Browse Databases by Title, click on W, and go to the Web of Science that way. Okay, so I had mentioned the basic search is the document search, which we see here. And so let's say I'm going to search for the topic of coral bleaching. I did that. It gave me my results here. And things that I can do with these search results. Number one, I can sort them by the number of times they've been cited. So you can see under the sort options, it's defaulting into relevance. I can bring up the newest ones or the oldest ones first, or I can see which items on this topic have been cited the most. And you can see that it's sorting them by the number of times they've been cited. So that is one thing we can do with our search results. Over on the left side, there's a variety of ways we can narrow our search down. There are an option now to limit to review articles. So that would be things like systematic reviews and meta-analyses, which weren't accessible as a kind of a separate index before. That's something new that's been added. Early access would be things like preprints that haven't been formally published in a journal yet. Open access articles are listed separately as well. And further down, we see things like the authors, so we can find out which authors have been publishing the most on the subject, as well as the affiliation or which institutions have been doing the most research on this topic. Now, I had also mentioned the opportunity to Oh, let's look at one item quickly just to show you. So we see that up at the top, as I had mentioned, we can access the full text in a variety of different ways, either through the library or sometimes there'll be links directly to the publisher's site or to other sources that have it available. We can read the abstract of the article and also get more detailed information about the authors, what institutions they work with. There's journal information down at the bottom. And then, of course, these would be the other articles that have cited this one, which there are many of, and the cited references that were used within this article as well. And you can see that we have links. The Find It at FAU button would link out to the full text of many of those items that are cited within that particular article. And of course, if we go to analyze results, we can get a visual kind of breakdown. These would be the categories in the Web of Science where these publications are found. And again, the authors, the funding agencies, and so forth. And these are all linked too, so we can click and see the individual articles that were funded by that particular agency. Okay, so I think at this point, I will turn it over to Kristy to talk about the Journal Citation Reports.
Okay, I'm ready to present if everyone is. Can you hear me okay?
Absolutely, and we see your screen. Thank you.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you. My name is Kristy Padron. I'm the Scholarly Communications Librarian. As Ken had explained Web of Science to you, I'll be introducing Journal Citation Reports. It's also by Clarivate Analytics. It's Web of Science group. JCR, which is its acronym, provides bibliographic information, meaning that it does give you some information about a journal, like where it was published, how often it is, and more, and also bibliometrics on the journals that are included on the list. Bibliometrics are the statistical analyses of journals, usually when they take a look at their citation counts and then make that information available for people to to learn more about a particular journal. JCR shows a journal's potential influence in various fields. So as Ken had mentioned, Web of Science, although it did start out initially as a scientific publication product, it did grow to include things from the humanities, social sciences, businesses, and other fields. So JCR is one of our newest acquisitions of the FAU libraries, and it could be gotten through the FAU library homepage, as Ken had demonstrated. Let's see, I'm just going to minimize this for a moment and then show you how that could be done. But before I do that, I wanted to just explain what JCR can do for you. Most of you know it because you want to find the journal impact factor for where you published, or you want to find that information for another journal publication. What JCR can do is help you find journals within or related to your discipline. So I see that we have someone in psychology in our audience today. So you can find other related journals in psychology, and so could the rest of you in your other disciplines. JCR can also help you identify highly cited or influential journals. So a lot of professors, faculty members, and instructors will use this to assist with where to submit their manuscripts or where to publish their work. So if they feel they need to publish in a high impact journal, a lot of times they'll use JCR to identify such journals. JCR also provides ranks for journals by discipline. JCR has, I think it's 254 broad subject areas ranging in the variety of disciplines we've mentioned earlier here. And it does rank journals within these broader fields. So the business publications, it's like one big broad category, but then within business, you'll have subcategories like finance, accounting, management, and it's treated for other disciplines in a very similar way. And also JCR will provide ranks for journals by discipline according to their particular bibliometrics and algorithm that they use to determine these numbers. JCR, as we know, also provides the correct bibliographic information. So JIF, the acronym, or Journal Impact Factor, is one. Another one is called the eigenfactor. That's probably less known and been around for maybe a little over 10 years, I think. And it's another bibliometric that describes the citation network and prestige of particular articles. So this information can be added to your published work, for your published works, to your promotion and tenure portfolio, or maybe to your annual review. You could specify what the journal impact factor and eigenfactor for your publications have been, if they have one. And this may also be requested for published works in grant applications or your CV. I have seen some grant applications ask about a researcher's publishing history, and sometimes they may ask what is their bibliometrics that they could provide for the committee to consider in making their decisions. So journal impact factor is the renowned journal level metric and eigenfactor score that they provide, but they also provide citation counts, meaning it's the number of times a given journal's articles have been published by published journals. So for instance, someone could look up the Lancet, one of the top medical journals in the world, and see how many times all the articles in Lancet have been cited by other works, published works. Okay, so as I'd mentioned, you can get to it through the FAU Libraries webpage by going to the Databases tab, entering Journal Citation Reports, or using the browse feature that Ken had demonstrated. Okay, so I'm going to make a little transition from my PowerPoint to the Journal Citation Report. Okay, so this is the Journal Citation Report. You've got a variety of ways to try to find information about journals. You could browse the journals by name here, or you can go to categories. So if you're someone who's interested in finding the journals for your particular discipline, here's the broad categories that we have here. For instance, I see I have a mathematician in the attendees list, so I could go there and try to find out what do they have for mathematics. It looks like they have 12 categories within, so that's usually the subdisciplines within the broader field, and about 1,703 journals there. And then you see the number of citable items that they have in JCR. So I can continue to follow this information and continue to mathematics. And then there I get a drop down, and you could see the other subcategories that are included there. And then I can go search there if I'd like to. That's one way that you could look for articles, especially in your field or your discipline. You could also just browse journals too. That's another option. They can give you a list here. It looks like I must have had the business one. I tried to do a search for business journals before I started, and then they give me a list of the journals that are included in their particular business discipline list. So here I've got some information about a particular journal in business. Academy of Management Annals is here. Category, what category and subdiscipline is it in? And this is going to be in the Social Citation Index, because Journal Citation Reports draws its journals from the Science Citation Index, Arts and Humanities Citation Index, and Social Sciences Citation Index here. And then if you look to the right, you also see you get the 2020 JIF score, which is the current score, by the way. It usually will be a year behind because they use they use information from previous years to come up with their statistics. So no, a 2021 JIF will not be available until 2022. So in this instance, going back to the Academy of Management Annals, I've got the title. I get the JIF right there, 16.438, and then the quartile. So it looks like this is going to be one of the top journals in the business field. I can select the link, and then it will take me to more information. Now, there's a lot of information on this page, but in the interest of time and your interest, I'll continue to the things that you're most likely going to have the information you need. So we've got the bibliographic information here on the upper left side. And then on the right, you have some information about who publishes it and how often it's published, and also when it got included in the JCR. And then you see the subcategories here, that it's in management and business. And then below that, you get information about the journal's performance. And then you get the JIF here. So as I'd mentioned earlier, 16.438 is the current one. And they also show you information about its JIF trends. That is, they compare it to how it had been in previous years. Also, to show some more information that you could get, total citations. This shows us that this particular journal was cited a total of 6,851 times so far. It also gives a little comparison of how often it had been cited in previous years. And then it does give some more information about the citation distribution, which I will not go into, but it can give you a good idea of how soon your articles are getting cited and when. Open access information is available about how many articles are available openly and without a subscription. And then finally, down below, we've got the rank. I'll just try to change my screen a little bit so we could see that better. So the rank will show me which quartile it's in. And this one, as I'd mentioned, is in the top one. And it looks like it's at the 99.7th percentile to round off that number. And then shows how it performed in previous years. Okay, and then if I continue further down on the page, I'll then get information about the citation network, like how long does it take for these articles to get cited and how long are they getting cited. This especially impacts certain disciplines where they still use a lot of publications that have aged a bit, just because maybe the information hasn't changed much, I guess. That's one of many reasons why. And then down below, you get information about who has contributed to this particular publication, which institutions have published the most here, and which countries have submitted and had their manuscripts published in this particular journal. Then if you'd like a little more bibliometrics for your promotion and tenure bid or other information sources, you have the eigenfactor score, which is another bibliometric that's available. Don't be frightened by that really small number. It's not as bad as it thinks. It's just a different calculation that they use to come up with that particular number. And they have a considerably different intention from the journal impact factor. So those are probably going to be the main parts that you're interested in to get the journal impact factor and other bibliometrics for your journal, and also to identify other high impact journals where you could submit your manuscript. So to go back to the slide, there are some limitations of the journal citation report. I like to call this, or why your journal may not be in it. Not all journals have a journal impact factor, and a reason is they get their list from the Web of Science master list, and they're very selective about who and what they include on their list. Also, JCR's journal coverage in science, technology, and engineering and the health sciences is higher than the humanities and the social sciences. Impact factor was originally a scientific bibliometric, and then it started to incorporate more as other subjects wanted to get included. I also want to add this third point, which I think is very important. Bibliometrics don't readily apply to all disciplines. It is really dependent on their publishing norms. Basically, what that means are for the disciplines that are expected to publish a lot, they're going to tend to have a higher journal impact factor, mainly because they have that many articles being published. Whereas the philosophy, for instance, they usually don't have a journal impact factor. I mean, there are some that do, but they don't always have them. And that's because they don't really publish journal articles as much. They're probably going to be publishing books or monographs. And also bibliometrics are not field normalized. So when you see a journal impact factor, it's really just a descriptive statistic. You really can't use it to compare it with all other disciplines or subjects. The New England Journal of Medicine has one of the highest journal impact factors, 91.25, meaning that its articles on average get published 91 times a year. And that's because medicine has very high citation density. That is, like I said, they publish a lot. And then if you compare that with the Annual Review of Psychology, it has 24.137, and the Academy of Management Annals is 16.4. So really, I can't really compare New England Journal of Medicine and say it's a better or worse journal or less in quality than, say, Academy of Management Annals because of the bibliometric. It's just not a very fair or accurate comparison to make. And then also, as I'd mentioned, journal impact factors were not found for journals in general history or classics. So many humanities and other creative kind of disciplines may not be included in these lists. If you'd like more information on the Journal Citation Report and also bibliometrics, you can see our research guide on research impact at the URL here. So it has direct links to JCR and also explanations to the different bibliometrics that are out there that you may want to use for different reasons. And also you can contact me. Some of you may know me as the instruction coordinator scheduling your classes. Well, now I can talk to your classes about copyright, bibliometrics, and other things like that with presentations, consultations, and learning materials. So with that, let's see, and Dr. Gumas would like us to copy those into the chat, and I'll do that in just a moment. I'll just stop sharing my screen and then pass the puck back to Judy. Thank you.
We had one question about, and I'm not sure Best is going to get us what we want. What is the best citation tool our library recommends to use?
Well, in terms of recommended citation tool, I'd really tell a professor or faculty member or instructor that they should really first look at their discipline norms. Is there a citation tool that everybody seems to be using within their discipline? I know that the sciences really like to use EndNote, for instance, so that's a pretty big consideration. And then another consideration would be what kinds of features are important to them. Like, do they want to save actual documents in their manager? Do they have a certain one that communicates better with whatever their word processing equipment may be, whether they use Microsoft Word or Google Docs or something like that? But I would really ask around to colleagues, but there's a lot out there. Mendeley is a free one so far, but it's owned by Elsevier and Information Services Corporation. So we really don't know how long it's going to be free. I could just give you that little heads up. EndNote's another one that you could purchase through the FIU OIT for a reduced price. And then there's others out there on the internet that are available. So I didn't know if Ken wanted to add anything on that.
I would add that there is a free version of EndNote available through the Web of Science, but it's not the full featured version. It's sort of a scaled back one. Yeah, as you had mentioned, Mendeley and Zotero are ones that are available for free also. However, they do have certain limitations on, for example, the number of groups that you can create, and of course the space allocation as well. And Kristy just posted a link to the library's research guide on citation tools that'll give you information on a number of the different products that are available out there.
Yeah, and I could also say sharing too, like if you really feel like you need to share files or your documents, and that that's a pretty big consideration too, for sure.
And I will jump in and say that the LibGuides, the research guides that the library creates, are absolutely amazing. Every single one of them that I've seen has been totally on point for what we needed. And I haven't seen this one, but I'm going to save that and take a look at it.
Absolutely, yes.
I think one thing I'd like to mention, I did kind of didn't talk about everything I had meant to because I got stuck there for a few minutes. But the content in the Web of Science, the cited references are all taken from journal articles. So we can find a book listed that is cited by a journal article in the Web of Science, but it doesn't have the citations that are found in books. The Web of Science does have some additional components or modules that our library doesn't subscribe to. One of them is for books, and one of them is for conference papers. And those would look at items cited in those publications. So those particular pieces we don't have, but we do have the full suite covering journal articles in our collection.
This was requested by many faculty over the years. I'm really happy that we finally have it. And that it's freely available. Well, it's not freely available. It's subscription-based. Tuition and taxpayer dollars and library allocations pay for it. But the librarians are very happy that we can offer this now.
And I will also let everyone know, excuse me, that this presentation will be available through our listing of our professional development sessions, but it will also be available through the library's video listings too. So you will be able to come back and review it and get more detailed information. We have many comments about the presentation. I don't know if you all are reviewing the chat as we go through, but indeed, what an impressive array of information you have shared with us. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Anybody else would like to put a comment in the chat, or let us open your mic so that you can chat with them?
Or is anyone interested in getting the JIF for a particular journal? You can also contact the library for information about how to use JCR, and if we could help you learn how to find journal impact factors if you need to, and maybe evaluate why you aren't finding them if that's the case.
Absolutely wonderful.
Yes.
Okay, anyone else have any comments, anything you would like to say? I certainly appreciate the effort that has gone into sharing this with us. And as you say, clearly it is something that is much needed and definitely appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have about 2 minutes if anyone wants to jump in and make a comment. Otherwise, we thank you for joining us today. And as I said, we will be sending the information out to everyone so that you have access to this as well. Our
e-resources librarian, Sherry Edwards, had said that we've had almost 35,000 views of the JCR database so far, and we've only had that since July. So just in the past almost 4 months, that's how many times people have been viewing it. So NFAU people at that have been viewing that. So it's been pretty heavily used. We're getting our money's worth.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I truly thank Kristy and Ken for putting this together for us, and I thank all of you for joining us today. We appreciate your dedication and your willingness to share your time with us. Thank you.
Well,